One of the most common things I'm asked, even to this day, is whether I'll be making any more Titanfall content, but with no immediate signs of Titanfall 3 on the horizon, it looks like we'll all have to wait a while longer to see a sequel to perhaps the greatest, and certainly the most underrated shooter ever made. However, a game series so inventive and fun as Titanfall can only remain alone in its new card niche for so long, even when the new kid on the block was ripped straight from the 80s. Get to the Orange Door is a title that has largely been developed by a single person and has been clearly influenced by arena shooters and the most recent Titanfall 2. From the wall running, micro double jumping, and even the way the player holds their weapon while crouched, this has made itself feel more like Titanfall than the most recent Apex Legends. The fact that this game has been developed by a single person makes this title so much more impressive, and it can be forgiven for a lot of its minor shortcomings. In fact, on the surface, the limitation on developer manpower has been exceptionally well handled, with the art style negating the need for any ray tracing bullshit, and a soundtrack that brings the level of excitement much higher than it has any right to be. Although unfortunately, the list of criticisms for Get to the Orange Door far outweighs my initial praise. Strap yourself in, and let's rip this bitch to shreds, for the sake of wholesome constructive criticism. The first thing a player is likely to notice is how low to the ground they feel when compared to most other shooters. Although this wasn't any more jarring than finding an emu in your backyard, it did further emphasize the often questionable map design choices. The maps in the first Titanfall were, in my opinion, some of the best designed in any shooter. Not only did the developers have to account for Titan combat throughout the entire map, and not only did the maps need to be designed with wall running at the forefront, but the spaces never seemed to look overly gamified to the uninitiated player. It is only once the player is introduced to the idea that wall running is at the foundation of the game, when like an immediate rewiring of someone's brain, the hidden navigation options are revealed, even when they've been visible the whole time. Titanfall seems to design maps from the ground up for this type of movement, and perhaps this design philosophy has spoiled wall running in other games, but in my mind, no other studio has been able to make it feel anything more than an afterthought for a marketing department. In my experience, Get to the Orange Door is the closest a game has come to the Titanfall gold standard, but it's still so far behind in terms of the meticulous map design that inevitably comes from a team of professional developers. The ratio of the player models next to the size of the map is one of the biggest problems in this game, and seems to constantly be at odds with its gunplay. By themselves, they are both solid additions, but when working together, trying to hit anything while going so fast when the enemies are so small and spongy is harder than convincing your parents that your internet search history is indeed for research purposes. The guns themselves are nothing to complain about if not limited. With this in mind, all of them have some sort of alternate fire mode, even if it never feels to drastically change any of the weapons. The abilities on the other hand were infinitely more interesting, with some being as basic as dual wielding. Although, my personal favorite is the time phone. The ability to stop time, shoot enemies, and watch as they all get destroyed at the same time ticks so many fucking boxes in terms of the player power fantasy, enjoyment, and sheer satisfaction. However, like a running theme for this game, every positive feature comes with an attached negative criticism. To gain these abilities, the player needs to generate points, which are earned with kills. The higher the current streak, the greater the score multiplier. This on paper seems fine, but the moment a player unlocks grenades, they realize that there's by far no better way to farm currency than from unfortunately the least interesting ability on offer. This regrettably did trigger the traumatic memories of Mercy being a must pick for 4 months in Overwatch, and my therapist says that it's set us back at least another 15 months. I could talk more about the few ways a player can abuse the game systems, the unsatisfying point economy, and the troubles with the movement mechanics, but the biggest problem this game faces is its lack of purpose. Get to the Orange Door at this stage seems to be less of a game and more of a proof of concept. From the very start, there is very little in terms of instruction, and this seems to be symptomatic of the game's biggest problem. You're not told what to do, because at the end of the day, what the player does seems to be irrelevant. One mode only has a handful of maps, and the other mode only has a single space. There is almost no sense of progression, because ultimately, there simply isn't enough content to allow the player to progress. What you see on screen is the entire game for better or worse, and as much as I found it enjoyable, I couldn't help but feel as if I had seen everything there was to see in under 2 hours of playtime. If this really does look enjoyable, then by all means, buy this game and prepare to have a good time, but I can't currently recommend something so lacking at the full $15 price tag when you could alternatively just buy Titanfall 2. With this being said, as a one-man effort, it is admirable to see a game devoid of any meaningful bugs running so well, and what is currently on offer has laid the foundation for something truly special if it is able to finally reach its full potential.
We have the chance to turn the pages of love. We can write what we wanna write. We're gonna make ends meet before we get much older.